Hello. Thank you for joining in this Candidates Forum for County Commissioner position number 1. The Candidates Forum is presented by the League of Women Voters of Thurston County and TCTV. The League, as you may know, is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that encourages and helps to inform active participation by citizens in their government. And the League, you need to know, is open to everyone who is of voting age, so we hope you will all give strong consideration to joining. My name is LWV. As a member of the League, I'm going to be moderating this program today, and the boss of our program, because she's our timekeeper, is Kathleen Downey. As we move through the process, I'm going to give you just a quick rundown. The candidates for Thurston County position number 1 will be introduced in alphabetical order. Number 1 is George L. Barner, Jr. On my immediate left. Then we have Ken Jones. Do you prefer Ken or Kenneth?
Ken.
Ken. Then we have Karen Rogers and Kathy Wolf, who is a current commissioner and an incumbent. Candidates, you're going to have 2 minutes for each of you to give an opening statement. I will then ask each of you questions in an alternating order. The person that's first asked a question will have 2 minutes to respond, followed by a minute from each of the other candidates. At the forum's end, you'll have 1 minute for closing statements. And we'll begin with the opening statements for you. So we'll begin with Mr. Barner. You have time to go here.
Okay. Thank you very much, Eileen, and I want to thank the League of Women Voters and TCTV for hosting this event. And I'm real pleased to be here to have a chance to talk about some of the issues that I'm interested in and concerned about. I'm 45, I came here in 1945 as a child, been here about 65 years. So I've grown up on the west side of Olympia, went to Garfield School, Olympia High School, Centralia College, and then the Evergreen State College, where I got a degree in political economy with an emphasis in environmental management. I did try and sing a little bit off and on for over years, and so I had a lot of fun with that, and that was kind of some of the other things I've done. I've been a member of the Olympia JCs, the Olympia Host Lions, the Nisqually River Association, a member of Harmony 18 Lodge Masonic Order. I serve on the board of directors of the Ola Board Washington, an advocacy group on promoting rail statewide. I've been promoting renewable energy for the last year as I serve as a member of the Port Commission, working with Newmarket Skills Center, South Puget Sound Community College, the Evergreen State College, and St. Martin's University to try and build a coalition to work with the various jurisdictions in the county to have an opportunity to create a working situation for an industrial park, providing incubators for new industry and new startups in the renewable energy field. Thinking that we have a lot of people coming from Fort Lewis and a lot of people getting out of Newmarket Skills and South Puget Sound who don't want to go to a 4-year school. They're interested in getting a job. And I think we have to do what we can to create working opportunities. So that's what I'm about.
Mr. Jones.
My name is Ken Jones. I would echo George's thanks and appreciation to all of you here at TCTV and the League of Women Voters. I had the distinct advantage of growing up on a wheat ranch in Eastern Oregon. I spent the first 20 years of my life there. I entered the service at age 20. I spent 4 years on active duty, actually a little more than 4 years. Came back to Oregon and I went to school, went to college at Eastern Oregon, where I received a degree in secondary education. I have held certificates in both Oregon and Washington, teaching certificates. I came back to Washington then in 1976. A good friend of mine had a business that he was opening here in Thurston County. It was a wholesale business, and I came and went to work for him. The business did quite well. We, in a very short period of time, changed the format, went from a wholesale to a wholesale retail operation in Fife. And you may have seen the store. It's called Sportco. It's on between the two interchanges in Fife on your right as you're going north. I then retired from the Air Force Reserves. I spent 33 years in that capacity. Retired from the company and sold my business back. Then I just did what a lot of people do. I worked for wages for the company for a few years. I drove truck, I was a handyman, whatever else was needed. Then came to Thurston County with nothing to do, so I went into small town politics, was on the council in Tenino for 6 years. Then I served as mayor for 8 years. Had a bit of a glitch in the last election, and consequently have nothing at this point to do. So that's my history politically. I have been, during my tenure as a council member, I was, can I finish a sentence? I served on the Thurston Regional Planning Council for 10 years, which was the highlight actually of my career representing the city. Thank you.
Karen Rogers.
Thanks, Eileen and League of Women Voters. This is great of you sponsoring these every year. So my name's Karen Rogers. I'm running for District 1. I'm currently on the Olympia City Council. And just to be very brief, what I'm noted for on the council is community outreach. I've done this very extensively because I honestly do believe that everyone counts. I don't care if you're wealthy, I don't care what your job title is or where you live, whether it's in the South Capitol neighborhood, whether it's Tenino, whether it's in a trailer park, it doesn't matter to me. If you live in Thurston County, you count in my book. The second thing I think I'm much noted for is fiscal responsibility. My personal opinion, I think every elected official should be poor at least one point in their life, because once you've been, and I was when I was a kid, you learn respect for people's money. I respect my own dollar extremely, and every bit of respect I give my own money, I need to give to yours, at least twice as much, if not 3 times more. And the third thing I really push hard for is open government. To me, this is transparency. I want you knowing what we're doing with your money and our policies. I want your input and to know exactly how our decisions are affecting you. It's your government. We work for you. I don't expect you to call me by a title. If anything, if anyone's going to brown nose anyone, I'm going to brown nose you. That's the pecking order. I live by that one. So on the county commission, what I'm going to be focusing on are jobs. We can't produce jobs, but what we can do is create a really good working environment for businesses to come in, and that's what I want. The Ritchie brothers, they moved out. I want them back in. That's a nice business. We're losing a lot of money. Second thing I want to do is focus on public safety, make sure that our funding is sustainable for that. And it could be something as simple as making sure that our roads are being chipped properly, that they're being resurfaced. And the third thing is, once again, breaking open government, making that a priority here at the county level. Again, I want to work for you, I want to listen to you, outreach for you, whether it's continuing my forums, which I do at the city level, going door to door, because I enjoy knocking on your door and having you invite me in. So thank you, and I hope I have your vote.
Thank you, Karen. Kathy Wolf.
Hi, thank you very much, Eileen, and thank you. It's nice to be here to the League. I'm Kathy Wolf, and it's been my pleasure to serve as the County Commissioner from District 1 for the past 12 years, since 2001. I'm at the end of my 3rd term, and I would like to go back for another 4 years. I am very proud of our accomplishments. I've got a great team to work with, my fellow commissioners, Karen Valenzuela and Sandra Romero. Together, I think we've accomplished many, many wonderful things. Right at the top of the list, I want to talk about our budget. I think we are one of the, if not the most, financially responsible, fiscally sustainable counties in the entire state. We've had some really rough times. We made some really tough choices about 3 years ago, cut a lot of money out of our budget, reduced our departments, and had to lay off several employees, but we've been holding the line ever since. We're very proud of where we are in the budget right now, even though no county in this state is in very good shape over the long haul. We're also very proud of our strong environmental work. We've done some great things with water quality, protecting our critical areas, protecting our prairies, just a lot of wonderful things, preserving agricultural lands, and we intend to do a lot more work in that area. We've done a lot of good things with energy savings. We intend to do a lot more there too. And I'm particularly happy about where we're going with working with other jurisdictions to find a more sustainable way to fund our health and human services. We're working with the other small cities and the 3 larger cities in Thurston County to try to come up with better ways to spend your dollars more wisely and provide a good safety net for those in Thurston County that need that. And we're also working with 4 other counties to work on something called a Regional Health Improvement Collaborative, where we hope to do the same thing with your health care dollars. We spend a lot of money in this county on health care, a lot of money. You'd be amazed. And we want to make sure that we are giving you the very best bang for your buck in the expenditures in health care, and that we're getting the best outcomes possible in this new world of all kinds of health care changes coming forth in the next couple of years. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, one and all. You did an excellent job in your opening statements. We're going to start with our questions now, and I'll start with you, Mr. Barner, again. I'm going to really put you to work first. So,
Okay, let's do it.
your question is, and other folks will have a minute to respond, what is your perspective on a home rule charter for Thurston County?
Well, actually, I think that that's probably a wise idea to have a dialogue and discuss it with the community, because I tend to support the idea of a home rule charter because it gives flexibility to the county and to the community at large. I know when there was a move afoot back when I was county commissioner, it failed at the ballot. I remember that Clallam County passed it, but they didn't make any changes. They just made it possible for, and when people got upset, they passed it, so they were able to come to the table and work out what they wanted to change and get a community dialogue going. And I think that's the approach that ought to happen here, that we'd have a way for the citizens to learn how they can shape their own government and get a better understanding of how it works, and then make changes that they believe are relevant and important and worthwhile through the ballot box, and by giving themselves the flexibility to do that. I think it would also provide some opportunity for discussion about financing your government. Because one of the things I'm aware of is, and a lot of people tell me this, when we talk about new industry for Thurston County, they say, well, we have the state, that's our industry. But that's just, the state uses taxes. We want to do something that generates taxes, so maybe the citizens would want to support the idea of new industry being invited to Thurston County, so we could have manufacturing, in which then we'd be selling things, and as a result of that, you get revenues that would be distributed to the cities, the county, and all the smaller cities, and also revenue for schools. It just makes a lot of sense. So that's about how I feel about the big picture.
Okay. Mr. Jones, what's your reaction to that question?
I agree, and I don't know whether it feels slighted or gratified, because the home rule issue is something that I've been very interested in for several years. As a matter of fact, had some conversations with Commissioner Romero, I believe about 2 years ago, on starting this process. So I am definitely in favor of it. A little different tack than George. I believe that it will increase the representation for areas of the county who I feel at this point are not fully represented, that being the rural area and specifically the South Thurston County. I think if we can divide the responsibilities of government 5 ways instead of 3 with that number of commissioners, the representation would be much stronger in those outlying areas. So again, that was destined to be part of my campaign, so I guess here we are campaigning.
Karen Rogers.
Well, I figured you were going to ask this question, so I went online today and I looked up the officials that we have, and we've got 18 county elected officials, which to me is quite a few, and we've got PUD commissioners, Public Utility District, we have port commissioners like George, we have fire districts, we have councils, we've got school boards, we've got a lot of government, and there's no doubt about that we need to have some rearranging, because are we duplicating a lot? Are we taxing more than we need to? Is there waste? And as an elected official myself, I can tell you I spend a lot of time going to meetings, coordinating with a whole bunch of other electeds, and I'm thinking we're spending a lot of time coordinating, maybe we need to do more time doing. But we already are beginning to, through regionalization, whether we do this formally through a voting process or whether we do this informally, we're already making progress. We've got fire districts, we've got Lot Alliance, Intercity Transit. These are all regional organizations. One way we're going to get there. Now, whether we take it to a ballot or whether we continue the trend, hopefully we are making ourselves more efficient and giving the people of Thurston County greater say in the services they receive.
Very good, thank you. Ms. Wolf, Kathy?
I'm very open to the idea of a county charter, and I have been for some time. I think there's definitely some advantages. Specifically, a lot of them have been mentioned. The fact that there's wider representation is a huge advantage. Just the fact that 3 commissioners alone are really stymied by the Open Public Meetings Law, something that we all support. But when you only have 3 people, that means you can never have a conversation out of the public. 2 people can never talk, and that's really kind of stifling. It would be far better to have 5, well, mainly for the representation, just be far better to have 5 commissioners, I think. Many other advantages in terms of tailoring it to suit your own county. However, I've been there, done that. I was a freeholder in 1989. I devoted 1 entire year of my life to getting that passed, and it did not work. So I do have some reservations about whether or not we can get the public to support it. If that were the case, I think it would be wonderful. I'm just not sure we can get there.
Thank you very much. Very, very good answers. Okay, from my perspective. The second question, I'm going to start with you, Mr. Jones, okay?
Fine.
This is kind of a long-winded one, so hang in there with me. Sustainability is a currently hot topic in Thurston County, as I'm sure you're aware. One of the sustainability goals set by county commissioners in 2010 was fiscal responsibility. Now, given the current budgetary difficulties that you've all referenced already, what progress would you say has been made towards this goal? And where would you cut current services in the future, if necessary?
That is a long question.
I'm happy to repeat it. If
No, that's fine. Sustainability, and I asked Commissioner Valenzuela earlier if there was a definition for sustainability, and she said there is one, but nobody really agrees as to what it is. My definition is sustainability means that my children have the same opportunity and the advantages in this county that I have. And that's a very difficult thing to do with economies fluctuating as they are. Now, you ask about the progress, and I think Karen hit a very important point. Regionalism and entities working together is much more important than several entities working individually. And I think through Thurston Regional Planning and the other organizations, these efforts are coming together in a concerted effort that will focus the attention. And I just think it is something that is desirable. It will have to happen, or the budget situation will get worse. Areas that I would cut, I'm not certain that I would cut services, but I think a reorganization or a reallocation of funds is perhaps in order. It's difficult to cut funds if you don't have any funds left to cut. It is not my personal philosophy to reduce staff when there's a budget problem. My philosophy is you do more with what you have, and that includes the human resource as well as the real resources, the brick and mortar and the pencils and paper. So I hope I covered most of the points in that question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Rogers?
Well, being an Olympia City Council member, we're in a similar situation, and this has been a very hot topic for us. So one of the things I've proposed for the council, and I would do the same thing for the commission, is let's look at assets that we have, whether they're properties, whether they're non-performing buildings, that we own, that we're keeping off the tax rolls. Can we sell them? Can we put them into use, or are we hindering business? One of the things we could do is we've got this new jail. It's been sitting empty for a couple of years. I say put it to use. And there's a study going on to try to transition into that, because we know we can't operate 2 jails effectively. Other things to do is we have to focus on the entire $330 million budget comprehensively. A lot of times when people look at budgets, they look at just one item at a time, and that's not the case. If you're going to prioritize, you have to look at the whole. Protect critical services, especially those that we know if we don't take care of them, they're going to cost more. I talk about things like roads. It's completely unsexy, but I can't tell you how much money they cost when you let them slip. Things like pap smears, early childhood care, we have to invest in those, because if we don't, they are going to come back and cost us a lot more later.
Very good. Ms. Wolf?
Fiscal sustainability is something we talk a lot about the county, and we've been talking about it for a very long time, and we've been doing a lot about it. I think in terms of fiscal sustainability, we were probably trendsetters. I don't know if that's a good term to use, but I think we recognized long before so many other counties and many other local jurisdictions that we were in trouble back in 2008. First thing we asked our departments to do was to voluntarily cut 5% out of their budgets. We ended up actually cutting $10 million out of our budget, eliminating 160 positions, reorganizing from 11 departments down to 8. We've been holding the line ever since. We are on a completely, very frugal message to all county department heads and elected officials, and I've got to say everyone has been extremely cooperative. We come in with a bare bones maintenance level budget. We only allow ads under the strictest of scrutiny and only in dire emergencies, and most of the time the answer is no. We, as I said, we scrutinize all new hires. We have certain controls in place. We're very vigilant about watching the budget. We're continually getting reports exactly where we are in terms of time to stop, okay. We take it very seriously.
Thank you very much. I apologize for the time. Okay. Now let's start with Karen. Yes. Did I start with you last time, or did I start with you? I think I started with you, Ken, yes. Didn't I? Thank you. Keep me honest. Karen, the question for you is, one growth management tool is protecting the county's environmentally sensitive areas through critical area ordinances, which has got to be hard for the average citizen to understand. Certainly was for me. But at any rate, my question is, how do you think the county's critical area ordinances are working? And what additional action do you think is needed, if any?
Well, first off, they are in need of updating. It's been a few years, and I was on the County Planning Commission, so I'm familiar with the CAOs. I'm also an environmental professional. I got my master's degree in wetland ecology, and I've been a past environmental regulator. I also helped write the bill creating the Puget Sound Partnership as a lead committee staffer at the legislature. What I can tell you from a very practical perspective is that we have to have critical areas ordinances that work. And something I found professionally is that you can have some of the best intentions in the world, but if you don't understand exactly how they're going to impact people from household to household, you're going to have something that doesn't work. So I'm going to give you an example. With the pocket gopher, there is the freeze and development. If it goes too far, and I liken it to raising children sometimes, it's this balance. How strict can you be before the child stops coming to you, stops talking with you, and then starts maybe doing things that could be harmful, and you're cut out of the loop. It's very similar, except now you're dealing with adults who are sometimes desperate financially to hang on. So do you force them out of the process? If you get to a point where a fellow's trying to figure out, you know, if I go in for a permit, will I get it? Is it going to stall for 3 years? Can I afford to go through this, or do I just have to do it myself and hope that I don't get caught? That's one of the worst things possible, and that's what's beginning to happen at the South County, is if you go too far, you end up doing far more harm than you do good. So that's something I found out as a professional, and that's something I bring to it as a decision maker. So other things, they have to be based on sound science. It cannot be fictional science. There has to be integrity. You've got to listen to everyone. You have to keep an open mind. Whether you agree with them or not, you have to keep that open mind. Consider how it's going to affect people, and consider how the CAO will affect the economy, because that's a big driver here. When people get desperate, they're going to start breaking the law, and you're going to lose a lot of ground. Also, the CAO must always be fair. The environment is incredibly important, and we all have to bear our fair share of that cost.
Okay, thank you very much. 1 minute.
You heard me say that we were one of the best counties in the state in terms of fiscal management. Now I have to tell you we're one of the worst counties in the state in terms of our critical area ordinance. We unfortunately have been operating under a critical area ordinance that is 17 years old. It is woefully in need of being redone, and we've been working very hard on it for the past several years. We're about to end that long journey. We have a public hearing set for the 23rd of June. And we hope to have it passed shortly after that. We've been following the progress of the Planning Commission all along. I think we've got a really good ordinance now. I think it does exactly what we need it to do. We're very pleased with what we have so far. So I really hope the public continues to stay engaged. We've had a lot of engagement from the public. I think it's a very readable document. It's very easy to understand, and I think it's very fair, and I think it's a long time coming. I'm very pleased to see this coming to end. Thank you very much. Mr. Barner.
Well, you know, I think personally, I had the opportunity when I was a commissioner around 1980 to create the first sensitive area ordinance that the county had. And as I recall, that was designed to protect the natural environment because we all drink groundwater and we got to protect those water resources. It's my judgment that the critical area ordinance is way too complex. I don't think people understand it. I think they almost may have to go back to square one and go out and spend the time with the citizens in the neighborhoods and the neighborhood associations to be able to have a dialogue and help them understand it, because I don't think they do at this time. I think we have to go that extra mile and bring them into that dialogue and develop a consensus. That's the only way it's going to be passed and be supported. If we don't get them to the table and become part of the dialogue, it's not going to work. And it's really important, but I really think that the county kind of overshot the mark and should have probably taken a little more time with the citizenry.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Jones.
This is supposed to be a date, but I'm in a position to where I have to agree with all three of the other contestants here. The ordinance is too complex, and it is has been, as a matter of fact, much too complicated for the people who work the ordinance and for the people whom it affects out in the county. I think what has happened, in my personal opinion, is that, and I think Karen hit on this, you don't want to go too far, and I believe that's sort of what's happening. We've gotten some too stringent requirements, the gopher thing being one. One little 6-ounce gopher can affect where a man builds his house. And I have a problem with that. I'm not saying that the gophers don't need to be protected. I question it, but I'm not saying that they don't. But the good science that is behind these ordinances and these positions needs to be adhered to.
Okay, thank you very much. That was a difficult question. I appreciate your time on it. Okay, 2 minutes for you, Ms. Wolf, for our fourth question. And I want to ask you to give me a definition as a part of this question, because it's not something that a lot of folks may understand. One of the Growth Management Act's regional goals is to encourage infill, which I hope that you can define, within the growth management area where services are already provided or could be provided for less. So my question is, what is the county's progress in this area, and how could it be improved?
Well, first of all, a definition of infill, in my mind, infill is we want our region to grow in the cities, in the urban areas. We've also drawn urban growth areas around each of the cities, and that's, once the cities are filled, then we need to move into the urban growth areas. But what we're trying to do is protect the rural areas. We don't want excessive growth in the rural areas. Unfortunately, over the past several years, we have not charged impact fees in the county, which basically means that growth is not paying for growth. It's been cheaper to develop in the county, and because of that, people have been developing more in the county than they are, I shouldn't say more, but they have been developing much more than we'd like in the counties, and not as much as we'd like in the cities. And there's other reasons. I think the cities need to do some things to kind of encourage development in their areas as well. But impact fees, and we're still in the process of developing that proposal, but I think that's going to take us a long way towards evening things out. But we definitely need to preserve our rural areas and make sure that infill occurs, which basically means growth occurs where the services are, which is in the urban areas.
Thank you very much. Mr. Barner, you have a comment on that for a minute?
Oh yeah, as I've driven around the county and I see these stop taking our property signs at STOP group, I'm thinking, well, these are people who are really unhappy because they feel like the county is messing around in their personal business. I think the county really has a difficult situation. We presently now have more people living in unincorporated Thurston County than live in the three cities. So, we're already out of balance. And to say to a homeowner, a landowner, well, you're not going to be able to use your land because we're going to put a buffer here or whatever because of the critical areas, that is creating a lot of consternation, a lot of anger, a lot of upset. And so we've got to stop. That's why I say we got to go back to square one and look at this thing, because I don't think that the critical area ordinance should be used to manage endangered species. that's the state and federal government's responsibility. I don't think the county should be doing that by an ordinance. I think we need to handle it as we have the sensitive areas that we talked about earlier and make possible for some kind of modification to this thing where it can become acceptable in everybody's mind.
Thank you very much. Okay. Now for this last question, it's only going to be a minute long. So I'm going to start with you, Karen, if I may, for this one.
Eileen, I don't think.
Did you not get a chance? I apologize profoundly.
No, I forgot what I
Now,
was
do you
gonna
want
say.
me to ask the question? I'm happy to do that.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
The
50
infill
demerits.
situation is a critical one. Based upon the projections for population expansion in Thurston County, I believe that the numbers are indicating that in the next 20 years, 170,000 more people are going to be coming into Thurston County, and that's a lot of folks, and that's a lot of houses. A lot of building is going to have to be done, and accommodations will have to be made. I agree with George that we can't dictate to those people out in the county about, again, where they can build a house because of a gopher. But the accommodation within the jurisdictions, in the cities, in the city limits, I believe that the regulations, the growth regulations, the building regulations, the permitting processes can be adjusted so that it is not such a stringent thing on the people who are going to be building and doing these new constructions to accommodate those 270,000 new people.
Thank you. Karen?
Well, I think the first thing we can do is start helping farmers, and not just some farmers, all of the farmers throughout the county. So long as these properties are used in that capacity, that you've got that economy going, there's no need for them to shift over into that last crop, which is going to be row houses. That's one part of the equation, and the other side is working with the cities and making sure that they're places where people want to live. We've got an aging population in Thurston County, and it's going to completely change the dynamic here. We have to have the housing to accommodate. Well, where is that housing going to be? And that's working with I know it's the League of Women Voters, and I'm going to tell you, it's an evil thing, but I'm going to say work with developers because they know the market. They know what people need to draw them into the cities, and everyone needs to be at that table to discuss how to make it work.
Thank you. Very good point. Now for the last question, we'll just have time for a minute from each of you. It's another agricultural question. Obviously, we all seem to think that that's an important component within the county. So my question to you, and I'm going to start with you, Karen, on this. What do you believe the county has accomplished in terms of keeping farmland in production, since that kind of pairs off where you left off?
It's very difficult to be a farmer because, in part, you've got the critical areas ordinances, and when you're looking at farmland, you're also looking at a lot of wetland, you're looking at floodplain, and there are setbacks. So how do you work with reasonable uses to do this? As well as what additional regulations do you place on it? How is the tax structure on farmland? Because you're not going to make a lot of bucks doing agricultural work. It has to be affordable. That's one thing. Also, you need to have the market available. And we are beginning to create that. There is, for example, we've got the Tourism Bureau, the Visitor and Tourism Bureau, and they're making this push toward having agricultural economy. And that's something we can do more of, certainly. There is also a huge movement for small farmers, for organic farmers, and it's allowing them the freedom they need to pursue this. Another thing that helps is keeping water affordable, because not everyone can. There's a fellow who does some work inside the city of Olympia. He wants to do his own farming because he can't afford to go grocery shopping. Can he afford the water?
So let me interrupt you for a second, because the other folks will need to respond to this piece as well. Do you anticipate a lot of additional regulation as a result of what you're seeing? Or a change in regulation?
Well, if the setbacks double, triple, quadruple in size, it's going to be extremely difficult for farmers to continue making a living as they have less and less land. There is an economy of scale. We have to preserve that. So there is a balance. The nice thing I can tell you about agriculture And I say this again as an environmental professional, that once you put concrete down on something, you ain't getting it back. And what I found about farmers is they're actually very, very good environmentalists. They know their lands like the backs of their hands, and they work with them. There might be some, let's say, conservation as opposed to preservation. They want to use their land, not destroy it. And it's keeping that balance. I don't know anyone who knows their lands better than they do, to be quite honest with you. And I say this as an environmentalist. I worked with farmers, I worked with ranchers, and I have a scientific training, but I'll tell you what, when I got on their land, I always said, explain it to me, because there is no way I'd ever go on their property thinking for 1 second I knew their land better than they did.
Kathy.
The county has done a lot to encourage agriculture. One of the first things we did, or one of the many things we did, in terms of land use planning, we set aside many, many acres in Thurston County for agriculture. We work very closely with our Agriculture Advisory Committee. We've helped them develop a working lands plan for future agricultural improvements. Under Commissioner Romero's leadership, the entire county has been working very hard on something called an agritourism initiative. Karen's correct, the VCB has been cooperating in that, but that's basically a county initiative. It's establishing an overlay district to encourage small farms throughout the community. We've helped to participate, or helped to sponsor a food summit. We're encouraging local agriculture, local organic farming. We are doing a lot. And as part of our critical area ordinance, we've developed a plan called voluntary stewardship that is directed specifically at agriculture lands. We are working very hard to promote agriculture in Thurston County, and we're very, very proud of that work.
Do you anticipate there'll be regulation changes?
I think we're in the process. We've already done some of that with our voluntary stewardship program. Once a critical area ordinance passes, that'll be part of that. We've already made some zoning changes, land use changes. So I think we passed our agritourism ordinance. Be more work on that, but most of it is already behind us. But we're going to continue to work on it. But a lot of it's already been done.
Great. Okay, Mr. Barner.
Well, you know, one of the things we need to do is try and work with our rural residents for them to understand the fact that a lot of times, and we've seen this at the airport, where people move in and they want to close the airport down. People move out around farms and there's smells. They don't like it, they want to close the farms down. We've got to get serious about helping them understand no farms, no food. You know, the cost of moving equipment now, moving food products through trucking and other means is increasing the cost of everything, with the cost of fuel going up. And I just think we need to be real serious about helping small farmers with small farms. You know, the old adage, it was too big to plow or too big to mow and too small to plow. Well, but with new industry and new innovations, people can now farm a 5-acre piece and do organic farming right in their neighborhoods. And I think we have to foster that, promote that, and educate all the other people who are living in residential neighborhoods. They're going to have to kind of suck it up and take that odor that comes with living in the unincorporated county.
Good point. Mr. Jones.
I had the pleasure of working with Commissioner Romero from the initial beginnings of the Agritourism Steering Committee. Interesting beginning to that situation. It began as a conversation between Commissioner Romero and myself, and we were talking about the wine festival that we've had in Tenino in the Oregon Trail Days. And out of her fertile brain came this idea, well, why couldn't we form a wine district? And of course, the snowball effect then took over, and we have this agritourism overlay in place now, as Kathy indicated. It has been passed by the commission. I have been associated with the Tenino Farmers Market for 7 years, and the farmers, the vendors there are very concerned about their future in Thurston County, and it deals with the perception that regulations are coming that will be harmful to them. That's one of the things that I'm proud of with the agritourism overlay district, is it has in every instance relieved regulation rather than putting more regulation on.
Okay, deep breath. We're winding down. So now you have a minute to tell your final portion of the story and convince the voters that I'm the person for you. Mr. Barner, we'll end with you since we started with you.
Okay, well, I can give you one example when I was a county commissioner in about the 80s, we had a situation in South County at Grand Mound where we had people, state was actually putting a stop on construction and building because of pollution to the groundwater. We have this glacial outwash soils, it's rocks and sand, and the pollutants went right through to the drinking water. I spent almost 8 years of that time working with the people in Grand Mound and South County to help them understand the porous nature of the soils, and we were able to get a community dialogue going and ultimately a consensus that allowed them to consent to the idea of a sewer district. We built a sewer with some assistance from the state and federal government, and now we have protected that aquifer down there because we all drink groundwater. And those are the kinds of things that I want to bring to the county, that outreach to the community, to the neighborhood, to be a consensus builder, spending the time open, listening, and then with leadership acting on their behalf.
As I've indicated previously, my campaign will focus primarily on 3 different issues. The first and foremost, I believe, is the economics in Thurston County. I believe the business atmosphere needs to change. I believe it needs to be made more attractive for businesses to come to Thurston County, and for those businesses who are here not to leave. We mentioned Richard Brothers earlier. I mean, that was a huge, huge operation. They went to Lewis County and spent $15 million to do that. So the business opportunities in Thurston County need to be improved. My second area of concern is representation for rural Thurston County and South Thurston County. We talked about the home rule situation. I believe this must be done. I'm not certain it could be done in one commissioner's term, but at least the process needs to begin. My third area of concern is balance on the commission.
Thank you very much. Ms. Rogers.
All right, so that question, why should you vote for me? Well, I'll tell you what, it's head, heart, and guts. Do you understand government? Do you make well-informed decisions? And I make that a priority. Do you have the heart? Do you care? And then there's also the guts. Do you have the bravery to make the tough call? And I've had a series of 6-1 votes on the Olympia City Council. It's not easy, but when you think something through and you're listening to everyone and you're taking the time, you do the vote that's best. And change doesn't start when everyone keeps quiet. Change starts when that first person stands up and says something and votes accordingly, and that's what I've done. We do need some change in this county, there's no doubt about it, and I've got the guts to do it. Another thing is I will outreach to you. I will not forget that I work for you. That's number one. I'm a public servant. There's a difference between a public servant and a politician, and I know what that is. If you want to know more about me, please go to my website, www.citizensforkarenrogers.org, or just give me a call, 628-7052. Thank you, Eileen. Thank you, League of Women Voters, and thank you for your vote.
Ms. Wolf.
I think that voters should vote for me because I have a proven track record of getting along well with everyone. I can work very well with my fellow commissioners. I work very well with all the jurisdictions, local jurisdictions in Thurston County, and I even work well outside the county and with other counties. And then I have that same proven track record back when I was in the legislature. In fact, I received an award several different times for good bipartisan work for people on both sides of the aisle. I think the biggest difference you're going to see here, and a little bit of it surfaced today, I stand by our county budget, and if you want to compare our county budget with the City of Olympia's budget, I think you'll see a huge difference. I think we are far, far ahead of many other jurisdictions in terms of our management of the budget, and I believe that I'm a much stronger supporter of our critical area ordinance and some of the environmental protections. I think these are all things that voters are looking for, and I'm also out there looking for innovative solutions to spend your tax dollars more wisely in many different areas. Kathy Wolf, running for County Commissioner for a fourth term, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Very good. Impressive group. Thank you all very much for coming and for helping me in my first moderation part. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So this brings us to the close of our forum for the primary county commission race for position number 1. I want to thank the candidates again, as well as TCTV and the League of Women Voters for Thurston County for making the forum possible. To our viewers, we hope that you take advantage of your opportunity and responsibility to vote on August 7th. This will be an information gathering time during this period for the primary for you to make an informed decision, not only for that vote, but again in the general election in the fall. Thank you again to everyone who's participated today, and we'll hope to see you all again. And good luck to you all. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.